In this video, I'm going to share my experience with two meal delivery services, Thistle and Factor. And then my ADHD is kind of on full display because I go on to give you an update about my GLP-1 weight loss journey, but I kind of jump around and talk about a lot of things that are held together by the topics of health and menopause and weight loss and GLP-1 meds. And yeah, this is like my unfiltered thoughts right now. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. My name is Bobby Ballard. Real quick, I want to clarify that I am not a medical doctor. I have a PhD in clinical psychology, but I'm just showing up here talking about my personal experience. This isn't medical advice. It's not psychological advice. I'm just talking about my GLP-1 weight loss experience. And I'm glad that you're here. For any decisions related to your healthcare, I definitely recommend you talk to your healthcare provider. That's who I'm relying on for advice about going through this process of losing weight on a GLP-1 medication. And that really is the way to go. So the past couple days, I've eaten Thistle and Factor meals, and I wanted to show you the specific meals I got. My hair is soaking wet because I just got out of the shower. So this is the first time I ever ordered Factor meals, and I don't think I'll be ordering them again. For me, they're just a little bit too high in sodium, a little too low in fiber, and they also just sat like really heavy for me, like in my stomach. I just felt like uncomfortably full after eating them. They tasted good, but visually they weren't as appealing. That's not the reason I'm not getting them again, but they bill themselves as restaurant quality meals, and at least for the way they look, I wouldn't expect restaurant meals to look this way. The other thing about them not being restaurant quality, in my opinion, is that there are quite a few things in them. Like I'm reading from the ingredient label, and there's xanthan gum and carob bean gum, which are stabilizers, things to kind of help the texture from going off in the amount of time between when they're prepared and when they get consumed. Potato starch and powdered cellulose as anti-caking agents. It's not that I refuse to eat these things, but when given a choice, I'd rather eat something that was freshly prepared that didn't have to have these things in it. It's just kind of extra. Like I said, the flavors were good, but the amount of sodium and what they considered fiber-packed, like one of the meals that was billed as like fiber-fueled or, packed with fiber, and it was 6 grams of fiber. That's just not what I'm looking to get out of, a 500 or so calorie meal. I'm trying to get a lot more fiber than that. And then they, like I said, didn't really sit great with me. I'll show you a couple of the meals that I had. So this meal is smoked Gouda and bacon shredded chicken hash with roasted green beans and pearl onions. Here's how it looks as it arrives when I took the packaging off. And then when I put it on a plate, I don't know, it tasted fine. This meal had 31 grams of fat, 39 grams of carbohydrate, and 29 grams of protein. And this meal had 7 grams of fiber. The other meal I'll show you is Peruvian shrimp and red pepper calla grits with ancho garlic broccoli and ají verde sauce. Here's what it looks like right before I popped it in the microwave, or maybe right after, I forget. That empty little section next to the broccoli is where the sauce on top of the shrimp and grits was in a little container, but it meant that the portion of broccoli was really small. I would have liked that whole side of the container to be filled with broccoli, so that was kind of disappointing. And let's see what the macros are. I had 560 calories, 45 grams of fat, 16 grams of carbs, and 24 grams of proteins, and 1,000 grams of sodium. I'm not on a low sodium diet. In fact, I have a packet of LMNT electrolyte powder in one of my bottles of water every day, and that has 1,000 grams of sodium. So I'm not fundamentally opposed to putting salt in my food, but that does seem excessive to me. I don't have a picture of this plated. It tasted good. There was some nice heat in the green sauce. And the broccoli was a little more cooked than I would cook it myself, but it wasn't mushy. I enjoyed it, but again, it felt really heavy. I think it was all the fat. On GLP-1 meds, a lot of fat, doesn't really sit well with digestion. It makes the stomach empty even slower. So after both these meals, I just didn't feel great. And that's the main reason I'm not going to order Factor meals again. But hopefully these 2 meals give you an idea of what these meals look like and what their nutritional profile is. Yeah, it's just not right for me at this point. Now I'm going to show you a couple of Thistle meals that I ate this week. This is one of their lunches, clean crunch salad with chicken. This is what it looks like before I opened it up. And with the lid off, you can see it's got some mixed greens, some sliced veggies, some seeds, some roasted chickpeas, and some chicken breast. And then there's a little container for dressing. And then here I just decanted it into a big bowl to make it easier to toss the dressing around with the salad. It was good. It was fresh. It was tasty. The salad dressing was very flavorful. A salad with protein in it is more how I eat usually. So compared to the Factor meals, this felt better. Like after I was done eating this, I felt good. It has 600 calories, 38 grams of protein, 11 grams of fiber, and I'll look up on the website how many grams of carbs and fat it had, and how much sodium too, just to compare to the Factor meals. They don't have it on this picture. And then here's one of the Thistle dinners that I ate this week, red Thai curry with garlic baked tofu. Here's what it looks like when you take the lid off. Everything's hidden underneath that rice. And then this picture is kind of blurry, not a great picture, but this is what it looks like heated up and poured into a bowl. I really enjoyed this dinner. This is very much like something I would cook from scratch, and having something fresh like this ready-made was really nice. The spinach was raw, so when I microwaved it, it just got a little bit wilted, so I liked that. The sauce was part coconut milk, part pureed pumpkin, which helped keep the fat grams lower, but also just gave it a really nice flavor. Yeah, I enjoyed this dinner very much. Had 440 calories, 25 grams of protein, 12 grams of fiber. And again, I'll post up here about the carbs and fat and sodium. As you can probably tell, I prefer the Thistle meals over the Factor meals. Having said that, I am going to take a break from the Thistle meals. I kind of miss cooking. I first ordered Thistle a few weeks ago at the tail end of my vacation because I knew I was getting home, going back to work right away, wouldn't have any time to meal prep. And I just thought, oh, how nice to have some healthy meals waiting for me. So it really filled that need, and I do really like their meals. But now I'm more into my homebody groove where I'm ready to do some cooking and meal prepping. Things have definitely slowed down, and yeah, want to get back in the kitchen. Before I tried any of these, I was in a pretty good groove of meal prepping and making salad jars for the week and making a batch or two of something to eat. And the downside to that is that I prep like the same salad every day and a big batch of something that I eat every night for dinner, so it gets monotonous. So I think I'm going to try to mix that up this weekend and make like a bunch of different ingredients that are prepped and ready to make slightly different meals to have some variation during the week. Like maybe I'll prep all my salad greens and prep some veggies and have some nuts and seeds and stuff on hand to make a salad every day, but I can put different stuff in it every day. And it'll still only take me 5 or 10 minutes to assemble it because everything will be ready in the fridge, and have like a couple different protein choices to put on the salad. And then I've got a big container of frozen chili left over from a while ago that I think I'll defrost and have that for dinner a couple nights, and then make some kind of probably curry to have. And I miss farro, so I'm going to make some farro and have some curry with farro a couple nights. So that way I won't be eating exactly the same thing. It'll save me a ton of money compared to the meal delivery service. I have a lot of the ingredients already. I've got hemp seeds and chia seeds and all the dried grains and lentils and beans. So it's mainly produce that I have to get. So it's going to save me money. It's going to take me a lot more time. But this weekend, I don't really have anything planned. Having a Sunday meal prep, is kind of relaxing. I'll put on some nice music and just do my thing. So that's my plan for next week. So I've been on 0.25 milligrams of semaglutide since the beginning, and I think I might go up with my next refill. I'm waiting to hear back from my doctor. My weight loss has kind of stalled out, even though I've been on track and everything. And also I've gotten a handle on the main side effect I was having, which was the constipation. I think she might want me to go up a step, and I think I'm ready to do that. 0.25 is the lowest dose. It's the starter dose. So I think bumping up to the next dose makes sense. I don't want to max out really fast, but it's been It will have been 3 months at the starter dose. And I lost 10 pounds in those 3 months, but it was all basically from the first month. So I'll keep you posted about my dose. I like whole grains and I eat them, but I don't eat that many of them. It's kind of a long story. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I ate really low carb for a time. It qualified as keto, but I wasn't eating meat at the time, so I was eating a ton of vegetable protein and just, like really low carbs. And that was the only time, it's funny because I hadn't heard of the phrase food noise then, but when I was eating super low carb, I remember having that quietness around food, like not feeling hungry and feeling satisfied when I ate and not thinking about food all the time or being able to pass by things that are tempting and, not feeling like I need to eat them. And it was this revelation. And at the time I thought, well, maybe I'm meant to eat this low carb all the time. I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because after a few months of eating that low carb, those effects started to wear off of like not having any cravings and feeling really satisfied eating that way. I started to really crave carbs after a few months. And I also kind of knew that this just wasn't sustainable for me because I really love fruit and I really love beans. And those are things that you don't eat on like a super low carb diet. So now I eat beans, I eat fruit. I do feel like doing that for a few months helped me to become more metabolically flexible and got my body really used to shifting into fat burning mode. But it was more like an intervention and not a way of eating for the rest of my life. I know everybody is different, and there are some people who it's really sustainable and they eat that way their whole life. But yeah, that just wasn't working for me. And I do eat carbs now, but what I found out is that I have to stick to complex carbs and I have to keep it under like 150 grams a day. This is from so much experimentation. It's a whole other story on its own that I won't get into right now. I'm not saying like everyone should eat under 150 grams of carbs, not at all. I'm just saying this is what I discovered through trial and error is working for me post-menopause. So now I'll put some kind of whole grain in a meal, but I'll put in like half a cup and it'll just be with one meal. Or if I have like oatmeal at breakfast, I probably won't put a grain in another meal. And then fruits and vegetables and beans really make up most of my carbs. I don't think 150 grams is considered low carb. I mean, it's like probably a third of my calories from carbs. So I don't know. Anyway, one thing that happened when I was doing the super low carb thing, I was low in electrolytes. And so I started drinking an electrolyte every day and my muscle cramps stopped. This weird chapping of my lips where no matter how much water I drank, my lips were super dry and chapped and I was having muscle cramps. And when I drank some electrolytes, all of that went away. And when I added more carbs in, I thought I could stop the electrolytes, but it turns out that I guess I'm eating low enough carb for me that I still need an electrolyte every day. So when I talk about putting my LMNT in my favorite water bottle, yep, this one is my electrolyte. It's my second one of the day. The first one was just plain water. This one has electrolytes, and I'll have one more tonight that'll be plain water, or I might put a little lemon juice in it or something. But yeah, I still find that if I don't have electrolytes every day added into my water, that I'll have those weird symptoms. Like I'll get more calf cramps and my lips get all flaky. If you're not sure what electrolytes are, salt, magnesium, and potassium are 3 of the main electrolytes, and we need them. We need them for proper cell functioning. And most of the time we just get enough from our food. If you just eat a well-balanced diet, you usually don't have to supplement electrolytes because you're getting them all in your food. And I feel like I should be getting enough in my food, but I still have to supplement with electrolytes. Every once in a while, I'll stop electrolytes for 4 or 5 days to see if I still need them. And my lips get all dry and chapped. So for now, I'm going to keep drinking my electrolytes. I'm editing this video and I just did some research on electrolytes because I was watching this and I was like, why do I keep needing to supplement with electrolytes? Like, why am I not getting them through my diet? So if it's boring for you, I'm sorry. But what I found out really makes sense. So any excess carbs you eat that aren't burned off for energy or stored as glycogen, And for every gram of glycogen that your body stores, it needs 3 grams of water. So carbs lead to you holding on to water. That's not a bad thing. It's just that's what the glycogen needs. And that's why when you initially stop eating carbs, you have this big whoosh of water weight. So when you restrict carbohydrates, your body loses a lot of water. And also, when you restrict carbohydrates, your insulin level gets lower, which makes sense because your body doesn't need to release as much insulin to offset the carbohydrates and stabilize your blood sugar. Here's the part I didn't know. When insulin levels are low, your kidneys excrete more sodium. So you lose more salt when you have low insulin levels, when you're not eating a lot of carbs. Salt is one of the electrolytes. And there's a balance between sodium and other electrolytes. So the loss of the sodium can disrupt levels of the other electrolytes. I eat kind of low carb. My body isn't holding on to enough glycogen, which means not holding on to enough water to keep my electrolytes stable. I'm basically flushing them out through my kidneys. So I'm supplementing. I just thought that was really interesting, the connection between carbohydrate and water and insulin levels and electrolytes. I am not a nutritionist. I'm not a medical doctor. So my apologies if I got this wrong, and if I just explained it in a really wonky way and you know better, please tell me in the comments. I don't want to spread misinformation, but I did go to a reputable source to try to educate myself, and that's what I'm telling you about right now. Okay, that's it. My exercise this week has been good. It's not that I felt super motivated, but I've just done it. I'm out of breath because I just walked fast for 30 minutes on my walking pad. And it's a strength training day. I feel so unmotivated, but I'm gonna do it. My gym's closed. It's 9 at night. But I've got these 10-pound dumbbells. They're not very heavy, but I figure between that and my body weight, I can do a pretty decent full body strength workout. I'm not gonna film it because I'm not wearing any pants. I'm just gonna stick for now with strength training, total body, twice a week, and walking. Although I do think that I will incorporate in my walking some little sprint intervals. I'm gonna have to do it by walking on an incline because I'm still too afraid to run because of my knee and everything. And the last thing I want to do is make my knee sore so I can't even walk. But this is based on Stacy Sims. I've had this book sitting on my bookshelf for, I don't know, a few months. And I don't even remember how I heard about it, but apparently when I heard about it, I ordered it and then I never read it. So I was watching a video on YouTube. Erin Giles, I'll put her name up here, was talking about this book and recommending it. And I was like, oh my God, that looks familiar. I think I have that book. And it's Your Guide to Kicking Ass, Feeling Great, and Crushing Goals Through Menopause and Beyond. Is that perfect for me or what? So I pulled out this book and I made a list of all of Dr. Sims' recommendations. And it was overwhelming. It was like, oh my God, in terms of exercise, there would be so many things I'd have to change about my current routine that I almost just put the book away and just pretended like I'd never read it. Then I was like, I'm going to do some cognitive behavioral therapy on myself. And I snapped out of that all or nothing thinking. And I decided that one thing that I could do to work towards all of these recommendations of Dr. Sims would be to add some sprint intervals in my walking routine, because I already have this really good routine of walking every day, and you're only really supposed to do sprint intervals a few times a week. So I was like, I can do that. I can incorporate some intervals. Actually, there's two things. The other thing is I ordered a weighted vest. It hasn't arrived yet, but when I get it, I think I'll start with 10 minutes a day of walking around the house with the weighted vest on to get used to it. And, as I get used to it, wearing that more so that I can go on walks with a weighted vest. A myriad of reasons why it's beneficial for bone density and cardiovascular health that I won't go into right now, but I am going to incorporate those two subtle changes of putting on a weighted vest a little bit every day and doing some sprint intervals during my walking. I don't want to overwhelm myself with a bunch of new things because there were like plyometrics and really heavy lifting. And I don't want to do really heavy lifting. It has historically not been great for me. When I try to lift heavy, I always end up getting injured. And maybe I'm not going slow enough or whatever, but heavy, like 6 to 8 reps in a set, like that's too heavy. That injures me. So I'm going heavy enough where I do 12 to 15 reps a set. And I'm like, you know what? That's just going to have to do. Lifting gods. I don't know what it is, if it's genetic. My sisters and I and my mom, we all were just like prone to joint stuff. Once if you're old enough, you understand like how you can injure yourself in the most embarrassing ways. It's never like I was snowboarding. It's like I was lifting. This was like in my early 40s. I was loading my cello into the back of my car, and I committed one of those cardinal sins that physical therapists tell you not to do. You're never supposed to bend, lift, and twist at the same time. And I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about getting my cello into the back of my car. And it's not even that heavy, but it's very bulky. So I like bent over and grabbed it and lifted and twisted to put it in the back of my car. And my shoulder went, and I didn't think anything of it. It was more just this little like, ouch. And then, I went about my business. Actually, I pointed to the wrong shoulder. It was my right shoulder. Did a little tweak. And it ended up hurting for so long, months. And part of that is I'm always really hesitant to go to the doctor. To me, like going to the doctor is sort of the last resort. Whereas to some people, like my husband, if there's some physical thing that he doesn't know what's going on, like going to his doctor is his first line of defense. And it means that he gets all this medical care for anything that might be troubling him. And I'm just not that way. I'm like just waiting for my shoulder to get better. I remember if I was driving and I had to reach over and flip up the glove box to lift it like that, it would hurt my shoulder. That was my benchmark for when my shoulder was better, is that I could close my glove box door without shoulder pain. And it really took months. I didn't do any PT. I didn't do anything. I just like kind of passively waited for it to get better. And that's my bad. If you're like me, where you just don't seek medical care, it's not a good thing. It is not good. I really count on my husband. He helps me so much. In fact, he actually saved my life a couple years ago because I was postponing getting my colonoscopy. And I was supposed to get it when I was 50. And I just kept putting it off. I'm thinking, I'm healthy and I have no family history of colon cancer and it's all good. And finally, when I was 53, a few years ago, my husband was like, you gotta get a colonoscopy. You have to. So we got it done, and it turned out that I had what my gastroenterologist called a monster polyp. And I learned that day that not all polyps turn into cancer, but all colon cancer starts out as polyps. And for this monster polyp I had, my doctor said that it wasn't cancer, but it was almost cancer. And it was so big that she couldn't remove it all that day. And so I had to go back 3 months later, 3 or 6 months later, I don't remember. So she could remove the rest of it. She thought she got it all, but she wanted to see me in another 6 months. That's what it was. It was the first one, the second one 6 months later, and then the third one 6 months later. So in 1 year, I had 3. So at my third colonoscopy, she said, yes, it's all out, it's all clear, and come back in a year and see if you're okay. And so I came back a year later and everything was okay. But can you imagine if I hadn't had that colonoscopy a few years ago, that almost cancer monster polyp could be cancer now. So I know I'm way off my topic. How did I even get here? Oh, talking about how I'm not good about going to the doctor, and so I didn't get my shoulder. Anyway, get your colonoscopy. Get it. It's no big deal. I was so scared of the prep because, I don't know, I guess I just thought it would be really miserable. And it's not. It's not pleasant, but it's not a big deal. The procedure itself, you're under for, so it's really a nothing experience, and it can save your life. So that's my little PSA, which I totally didn't expect to give today. I was talking about how easy it is to hurt ourselves. And I hurt my shoulder in my 40s with my cello. And then the other day, I was driving and my wrist, oh my God, I pulled up to a four-way stop and I had my left hand on top of the steering wheel and my right arm was like in my lap. And another car pulled up to the right of me right at about the same time, but I kind of thought she had stopped sooner than me. We were both kind of stopped, so I wanted to wave her ahead. But I was so lazy, I didn't want to lift up my right arm to wave her to go. So I twisted my left arm and waved like this for her to go. And my wrist went, it hurts as I'm doing it right now. My wrist went, eh. Anyway, I can tell, though, this doesn't need medical attention because as I'm doing it now, it's like a little bit sore, but it's nothing bad. And that was only like yesterday or the day before. Anyway, I have no idea how I got off on this tangent. I think I got off on those tangents because I was just talking about menopause and exercise and staying healthy as we age. But I'm not sure, so give me a little grace. So I'm taking my hair out because I'm getting like a ponytail headache from these little braid buns, which I don't really think were working for me anyway. So anyway, what was I talking about? I'm finally on top of my constipation. It's been almost not almost 3 months. It's been like 2.5 months of dealing with this. And I think the reason it took me so long to figure it out is because I always associate laxatives with like diarrhea. I guess from all the colonoscopies that I talked about, I was afraid that I would take too much in trying to get on top of the side effect. And so I think, I was just being too meek and it wasn't working and it wasn't working. And it turns out I found what works for me and it's so much more than I thought. Like without this medication, I would literally be pooping my pants every day with what I'm taking right now. So check it out. Okay. I take a dose of Miralax every day. I put it in a cup of water with a little squirt of, it's like Mio, but it's the store brand of just those flavored drops. And 400 milligrams of magnesium citrate, 5 prunes, because despite the fact that I've been saying prunes aren't helping, for some reason it's drilled into my DNA that prunes will help. It's like I hear my mom's voice telling me that prunes will help. And then every 3 days I have some smooth mousse tea. And I feel like there's something else. I upped my water. I was already drinking like 2 or 3 of these a day. So I upped it to 3 minimum of these a day. And my fiber was already pretty good. So it's still 25 milligrams a day. I've got some serious poof going on. But I'm usually above that. So I feel like I'm getting good fiber. But I decided just to up my water. And that is working. Mainly all of that is working so that instead of being concentrated, I'm actually like going pretty regularly. And it's not even every day, but it's like almost every day. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you don't hear me talk about poop for a while, it means that everything's good. That has been really the only side effect that has plagued me. The fatigue wore off. I don't get tired now when I take my shot. I never really had any nausea. So I'm tolerating the medication well, but I haven't lost any weight since, hold on, I'm gonna actually check. Yeah, I just checked because I felt like maybe I was remembering wrong and like gonna say something overly dramatic, but it's true that those whole 10 pounds I lost in the first month. And now it's been like 2.5 months and I haven't lost anything. I did have a big vacation right after that first month where I maintained my weight, but then I got back on track. I'm doing all the things. And the scale has not gone down. There have been a lot of other changes. In the time where the scale hasn't moved, my body has shrunk, my clothes fit differently, and I can see a difference now. I saw a picture of myself cooking, and it was when I was down 3 pounds already, so it was 7 pounds ago. I was like, do I still look like that? I think maybe I don't look like that anymore. So I put on the same clothes, and I had my picture taken while I was cooking, and I can see the difference. Can you see the difference? So I know I'm getting healthier. I know I'm getting stronger. Last week, the scale wasn't down at all, but I was down a pound of fat according to Smart Scale, all the metrics. But this week, all the metrics are the same as last week. So like nothing's changed. I don't know. I see a difference. I feel a difference. And I'm just, just going to keep plugging away. I feel like I just talked about the most random stuff today, but that's where I'm at. And if you made it this far, thank you. I'm so glad that you joined me. If you liked this video, maybe give it a thumbs up. It will help YouTube to show it to more people who might find this content helpful. Also, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with my GLP-1 weight loss journey. Thank you again so much for joining me. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.